Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy DisBearity, and I'm also once again partnering with my friend here, Derper3.
Hi.
And so, in today's video, we're going to be going over the tier list for the Ogre Kingdom and also Warriors of Chaos. Now, the last time here in our last major tier list video, what we did was we talked about all the major DLCs and how we stacked them up in terms of like how good they are when overall. But now we're doing like a deep dive or dissecting these DLCs, and we're starting off with the Ogre Kingdoms again, Warriors of Chaos. So, with that said here, I'm going to be the one mostly presenting these characters and talking a little bit about these characters, while Derper3 will be going more in depth, and then we're going to be placing them towards the end. So let's go ahead and start this out. We're going to be starting out with one of the OG Warriors of Chaos, y'all. We're going to be starting with Mr. Archaon, the Ever Chosen, the one, the only, the Chaos Divided, the man himself. Now, within this Warriors of Chaos DLC that came out, Archaon and a couple of his other buddies, they got hella reworked. Like, these guys are buff, they're strong. It's like they gave them steroids. Now, one of the cool things I love about the whole Warriors of Chaos changes here is that you can actually manually upgrade your units to be from a filthy marauder to upgrade them to ascend to maybe a chaos spawn or a warrior or whatnot. And especially because Archaon works under Chaos Divided, he's able to recruit all the Mono God faction units, which is really cool. Now, Deborah, tell us a little bit about Archaon the Ever Chosen.
Okay, so with the DLC update, they gave all reworks like you mentioned, and from the first two games, Archaon was just solely a lore of fire caster, but they now gave him a mixed cast with lore of metal and lore of death. So he's got a bit more versatility in his spell casting, as well as at the end of each personal line for each of the gods, you can now ascend them to demonhood. So that means you can make them a demonic unit. So that means they're not affected by like leadership stuff now. They just like disappear. They just fucking kill themselves and die.
Mm-hmm.
Since he is mostly undivided, he does have access to all the marks. So when you're upgrading your unit, you can give them unique marks.
Now,
all that stuff.
Now, the one thing I will say this, because I'm gonna go ahead and get this out of the way. Between all of the Warriors of Chaos, they all got a natural flow upgrade. So that means they have Dark Fortresses, access to Dark Fortresses, Gifts of Chaos, Warbands, of course, Path of Glories, Souls, Dark Authority, and Eye of the Gods. So they all get a slew of functionality, which is all pretty similar. Just to go ahead and get that out of the way, but keep going, Derper.
Okay. So yeah, since mainly he's undivided, his starting army is a bit mixed, so it's not like focused on one mono god, so it's all mixed and stuff between Khorne, Nurgle, Slaanesh, and Tzeentch. But over time, you can change that however you want, depending on your playstyle, as well as authority. So each of your lords, not just legendary lords, have authority to each of the gods. And the more higher you are in that 40, the more like bonuses you get. So like they'll cost less, recruit less, upgrade less, replenish a bit more, and so on. As well as a revamped tree where you have to, if you are playing as Archaon, Kolek, and as well as Be'lakor, you have to go through the research tree to be able to get some upgrades as well as access to more of the gifts, because you have a gift menu which you can spend souls and for a base soul cost,
Yes.
and then over time an upkeep cost, and each of these provide bonuses to your army as well as fill up the Eye of the Gods meter at the top, and when that pulls out, you get an event. So you get 4 options to choose from, where it could be increase movement speed, get a bunch of money, lower the cost for activating gifts, maybe get some units in the recruitment pool, and all that fun stuff.
Nice.
But the changes to Archaon's pretty good. He's still kind of annoying to deal with because of his fucking bullshit. Considering some of the new features they added in 3.
And if I recall, he also gets a barrier as one of his like.
If he gets one of his quest items, he gets a not high tier barrier. He just gets like a bit of a barrier, as well as some authority.
Now, like
some of his items.
Now, like Derper3 said, he does start with a mixture of lores of magic, such as lore Death, Fire, and also lore Metal. So he starts out with spells like Searing Doom, Spirit Leech, Burning Head, Flaming Sword of Ruin, Transmutation of Blood, and also the Purple Sun of Xerius, which are some pretty dominating spells, I guess you could say. If I recall, Archeon starts north of Thermicon, who's also another part of another DLC, which we'll get to much later. With Archeon, again, he late game can become a powerhouse. Before we actually move on to the next character here, there between Archeon's campaign and also his starting position, where would you place Archeon in this tier list?
I'm saying either S or A plus because he is really strong. The rework does help him out. The Dark Fortresses, all the other fun stuff they give with Chaos, as well as it just makes it easier for him, especially if you're vassalizing a lot because he gains more research rate the more vassals he has, as well as souls per turn, which is pretty nice.
I can definitely agree with that. I think just for sake, I would say personally put him into the A plus tier. A plus seems like a better option, at least to me. Like you said, he is a powerhouse. You know, especially if you fight it now. If you fight him in campaign wise, like especially if you're playing Thermicon, like once again, new leader here. Thermicon, if you beat Archeon the early game, he can get chewed up. Now, like I said, Archeon early game is weak as hell, but that late game monster though, when he starts to kick in because of Chaos Undivided, whew, he's built different. Let's just say it like that. But so you want to go? So you said you want to put him to which one?
A plus or S is fine with me.
Let's go ahead and throw him to A plus. Okay, so now this next one we're going to be talking about here. Now I barely have any experience with it. Literally the last time I played this character was way back in 2016, whenever the original Warhammer came out, right? And that is Sigvald the Magnificent. So Derper, tell us a bit about Sigvald here. I know he's your boy. You love him. Go ahead.
Yeah, I love him. Okay, so Warhammer 3 came out when they introduced all the greater demons. They finally gave him a bit more Slaanesh-y stuff. So throughout his campaign, when you level up, you can also get access to the greater demon powers, like how all the greater demon factions have. They gain like unique army abilities in battle when they fill up the bar. Sigvald gets that as the Scion of Slaanesh. He gains bonuses when he gets Slaanesh units in his army, as well as on top of just being even more annoying to deal with, considering now you can ascend him to a demon, so it's just impossible to fight him when he gets demon.
Wait, you could ascend him? I've never seen the AI ascend him. You could ascend him?
Well, yeah, it's a unique buff they get at the end of their personal line. You just make them demonic, so that means they're not affected by leadership penalties.
Okay, so it doesn't change his model or anything. Okay.
No. It doesn't change the models.
Okay. That's I was like, wow, that's actually insane.
No.
But keep going, sir.
He's still a strong melee fighter, especially when he gets his items, Silver Slash and Auric Armor, because Auric Armor helps him in combat because it gives them regen when he's fighting, as well as Silver Slash, which is a pretty good weapon. Let's see.
Let's talk about his starting position.
He starts near the Dark Elves. He's near like the
Malice Darkblade.
He's not really close to Malice. Maybe like there's one province between them. But his main focus is you want to push more left because he starts a war with one of the minor Dark Elf factions, which is right next to Hellebraum, as well as some like basic orcs. But yeah, he still is really good. He is pretty strong. I love him because eventually you can give him perfect vigor, so that means he like never fucking gets tired out. So he can just be a one-man fighting machine.
You know what's crazy? Within this tier list too, that perfect vigor makes you really want to put him, because you know what? A friend of mine once said this: Warhammer 3 is chaos this time, right? So
yeah,
when it comes to Sigvald, keep going, but like I personally would have to put him in A plus tier, because that perfect vigor by itself and what he gets is just hella strong. But go ahead there, keep going.
Yeah, he's a good melee fighter. Then eventually, when you go down his personal lines, when you get the other Slaanesh army abilities, so like Narcissism, which stops people from moving and they can't do anything, as well as Fascination, which does damage and causes people to go rampage. He mainly want to do Slaanesh stuff with him since he does have higher Slaanesh authority. Even though he is even though he's undivided as well, you can get other stuff. But main thing is you just want to fill up that Slaanesh stuff to give him all that strong authority, since he gets buff Slaanesh units, as well as on top of the Warriors of Chaos update, they added in a bonus whenever you give someone a mark. So if you give someone mark of Slaanesh, they're immune to psychology. They have Strider. They get 10% physical resistance, and they have more speed.
Okay.
So it makes them it's pretty good for combat, as well as I know further down, his research tree is a bit different since he already has access to the Slaanesh part in the tree, and when they put more points in Slaanesh, you'll have less Khorne authority because Slaanesh hates Khorne, Khorne hates Slaanesh, vice versa, blah blah blah, who cares?
Yeah.
But he's really good, pretty strong. He's very good because even if you defeat him in combat, you easily gain like some nice physical resist for your like lord when you beat him in combat. But yeah, I'd say A plus or S because he's just my boy, and I'm just favoritism.
Yeah. You're with your bias, we're definitely dropping an A plus, Mr. Bias. Now we're going to be pushing on to the next one here. This dude right here, or well, I guess you call him a dude. This man,
This Hulk of a man.
Yeah, this Hulk of a man, or a being, or whatever you want to call him. We're going to be talking about Kholek Suneater. Now, if I recall, one of the major changes that Kholek gets from his upgrade or whatnot, right, is that every time he conquers a vassal, he gets larger and larger and larger. It never stops. And so to me, that's quite insane. And keep this in mind, he is a dragon ogre. Now, Kholek, personally, once again, I have not played him since 2016, so it's been that long since I played the man, okay, since the first Warhammer. So I mean, a lot has changed. Now, Kholek, if I recall, he starts south of Termacon, but
Yeah, you start. But south of Tamarkon near
the Chaos Dwarves, near Astrogoth, towards the left. South is Grimgor, right is Zatan. So he's kind of like in the smackdown middle of all that. That's like their own little, what do you call, bowl, I guess you could say, right? So give us some information about Kholek Suneater, sir.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, the main change he got was, besides removing his Lord effect, which was ambush defense chance minus 20%, they got rid of that negative thing. So he basically, every time he has a vassal, he gains more weapon strength, more armor, as well as mass. Now, mass is a new thing they added in Warhammer 3, which mass also affects when you're charging into people. And it just makes it that if you do the charging bullshit, then you can easily just wipe out fucking units like nothing.
Hey.
Which is pretty good. Even though he is a large entity, he also does decent damage against fucking large units, which is a bit weird, but I don't fucking judge. You'd mainly want to do Dragon Ogre stuff with him like in the previous game, since he gives bonuses to them as well as reduce upkeep. He still has his Bombardment, which is the Lord of Storms, which does pretty good damage, and then Star Crusher, which gives him a lot more fucking splash damage. And he is undivided, since Dragon Ogres aren't aligned to any of the Chaos Gods, so you mainly want to buff that up, which he buffs out himself through his own tree, or you can just do it by adding in like undivided, unmarked heroes, which is just pretty normal.
Okay.
And then like normal, you can get you can make him demonic, so that means he gains an better physical resistance, as well as immune to fear and terror and all that fun stuff. And he's just pretty fun if you just want to get lots of vassals just to make him even stronger when just fighting in general. Because nothing like a fucking giant walking tank just beating down the doors.
That is very true. Now, where would you say you would place our boy here, Kholek?
I've not played much of Kholek, so I'm definitely suggesting, I think maybe A or A plus, because of the rework with Warriors of Chaos, making him a bit more, helping him catch up with all the newer races with some of their updates and stuff.
You know what I think? I think what I'm gonna do is we're gonna make an adjustment here. We're gonna throw Archeon up in S or not, and then we're gonna throw Kholek with Sigvald here.
Okay.
And that's gonna be because Archeon's the main dude. He's the main man, the main guy, the main takeover. and they gave him a lot. And now Sigvald, those are literally his underlings, but they're good too, though. Don't get me wrong, they're good too, like for sure. But yeah, I think this is actually not too bad so far. What do you think?
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty good.
All right.
And another thing I should have mentioned back with Archeon, him and Be'lakor are the only two who can confederate other Warriors of Chaos factions. The rest of them can't really confederate the other.
And that's right, because they're like at a war against each other, if I'm correct. Like ever.
They're not really aligned. Because Be'lakor was the first ever demon prince in lore, and then he got too greedy and he got too powerful. All the gods didn't like that, so they smite him down and made him like made him a bitch to be like, hey, you get to fucking knight the fucking next ever chosen and bullshit. But I was gonna mention the way to confederate easy is just to fucking fight them in combat and just beat them up.
Oh yeah, very true.
Because when you conquer the last one, that's when you get the confederate option.
All right, guys, and so now we're going to be heading into the newer factions of the Warriors of Chaos. These are the guys that came with the DLC, who are here to stay. Now we're going to be talking about here our best boy in the whole wide world. Okay, I mean, I'm not. Well, okay. I want to call him the best boy because I haven't personally played him myself yet. I've actually started a campaign with him. I just haven't went back to it. I don't know why personally, but like it's nothing against him though. Just saying. So we're going to be talking about Be'lakor, right? So Be'lakor is one of the most newest legendary lords for Total War Warhammer 3. Now he serves as the main antagonist, leading the Shadow Legion. Now in Immortal Empires, though, he also again leads the Shadow Legion on the island of Albion, if I recall.
That's where it is. They put him on Albion.
On Albion. Now, one of his main things, for what I can tell from his playthrough, is that he's able to use certain arcways to teleport throughout the campaign world, wherever you want to go, basically, which is pretty cool. But Derper, go ahead and give us more in depth of what Be'lakor and who he is all about.
Okay, so Be'lakor was first introduced before Immortal Empires came out. He was in the Realms of Chaos. He was the main antagonist because he captured the Kislev bear god Urson and needed his blood to break the curse that the Chaos gods gave to him so he could walk the mortal world. So you beat him in the game, and then you could choose an option to have him as a lord and all that stuff, but that was near the end, so it was boring. So when Immortal Empires came out, they made him a playable lord with his own faction, which is pretty good. He starts in Albion, like you mentioned. He is a Demon Prince unit, so he's already demonic. He's also a Lord of Shadowcaster, and a really strong one at that. Because he can lower the cost, and also Lord of Shadows, in my opinion, is one of the best lords in the game. He also can. He also gains easy access to the demon units. The other Warriors of Chaos can get them too through the recruitment pool, as well as through their gifts, but he gets access to them, as well as he can upgrade them to Exalted. Same with, I believe, the mono ones. I'm not sure about the other three, like Archeon and all that. I didn't really recruit demons with them.
Yeah.
He's pretty strong. He has a cool mechanic if you're fighting against any human faction. So if you're fighting Empire, Bretonnia, Kislev, Grand Cafe, and if you fight their lords in battle, you give them a mark of shadow, and when they come back after 10 turns, they die and they pop in your recruitment pool as a demon prince unit. And the only way for them to get rid of that mark is they have to either beat Be'lakor in battle or fight another lord belonging to the Shadow Legion. So it's pretty good if you want to get some like early demon princes. And since you're on Albion, you're right next to Bretonnia, so you get fresh ripe princes for the taking.
Oh no! Now
he's undivided like Archeon, so it doesn't really matter what composition you go with because he gains authority and like all of them and such. But overall, he's just really good.
That's what's up. Now, where would you place him in this tier list?
Probably S.
Probably S.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to go now. I'm going to go with your word because I personally haven't played him myself. But you know what? He's the opposite of Archeon, so they might just have to share it together. Okay, and so for this next character we're going to be talking about here, now she is definitely one of my favorites. Now I have a couple biases. So don't come at me. I know, trespass. I do have a couple of biases. We're gonna be talking about the ever chosen. Well, I'm sorry, the Queen of Khorne, or as you would call it, the Gore Queen, and that is Valkia the Bloody. She was the first character that I played when I got my hands on this DLC. Now she runs with the Legion of the Gore Queen. Of course, that's her thing. That's her name. And she, of course, once again, she's under Khorne. It's all about blood, murder, whatever you can think of, fire. She's there. She's the queen. I love her. I simp. Okay, I was subscribed to her OnlyFans. Okay, I'm just kidding. But first and foremost, though, her attributes. All right, she's considered as a flying monster. She gets armored and shielded. She has armor piercing. Now she does have anti-large, but her anti-large is mostly good against units that are like horsemen or whatnot, or cavalry. But she can also do pretty well against larger entities herself. And of course, once again, she's flying. Now within the game here, she does give a special amount of unit. Items in the game, especially through her quest lines, such as the Demon Shield. If I recall, gives her vulnerability for I think like 15 seconds. I don't remember too well.
Yeah, it's a couple of seconds. She gets invincibility,
and that's pretty sick and pretty crazy. Thank you for correcting me. Then she gets the Spear of Sloopnor, which is literally a direct attack, like a laser beam kind of attack, and whatnot, which is freaking amazing. So if you need to if you see a whole horde, like a whole horde of enemies like in a circle around her, use that, and man, that spear will cut through and do some damage. And then she does have her own special armor, which is called the Scarlet Armor. Really nice, really cool to use. If I recall, the Scarlet Armor, the effects of it is that she gets plus 15 armor. It helps the Khorne Crusher plus 2 and a 5% to ward save. Really nice. Now she starts in her starting position is in the very north of the map, west of the map. Her enemies, her starting enemies.
She's above the Dark Elves.
Yeah,
she's just like the part of the waste.
Yes, the northern wasteland. Yeah, her normal enemies are the White Dwarf, the Whitebeard Dwarf. God, I forget his name. Grombrindle. Yes, he goes on my tongue. Yeah. So she starts north of Grombrindle and also north of Malachai, or Malachus. I mean, I don't get to see.
Malachus, Helabrom, mainly all the Dark Elves besides Malice, Lockyer, Marathi, because she's a bit further south, closer to Lestria.
But go ahead, Deborah. Keep going. Tell us more about Valkia the Bloody.
Okay, Valkia is one of the new came with the DLC pack. She is mono warrior chaos, so her unit, she can only give the mark of Khorne to her units, and when the unit has a mark of Khorne, they have increased magic resist, they get frenzy, but also they have lower melee defense, because Khorne's not all about fucking blocking hits. He's about dealing blood, and he doesn't matter where the blood is spilled, just as long as it spills. She's pretty good because her unique lord effect is if you go to fight an army and they run away, you gain some movement speed back, so you can easily catch up with them. Like, bitch, where the fuck you think you're going? I'm not done with you. So yeah, she's really strong in combat. She is flying, obviously, so she can easily get in and out, sort of deal. Even though she does have the spear, which helps against like anti-large or large unit, but she can still do decent melee combat as well. And on top of it all, she eventually gets Gore Feast, so that means the more when she's in fighting, she gets regen, which is pretty strong. And then eventually down the line, you can make her a demonic unit to give her the extra bit of physical resist, as well as immunities to like fear and terror and such. But I feel like most people should really get fear and terror, especially the chaos stuff.
Yeah,
her skill tree. Her research tree is different than compared to Archeon, Bellicor, Sigvald, and Kolek, where it is mostly just Khorne stuff. So when you go down the tree, you gain more Khorne authority, more access to the gifts of Khorne, as well as being able to turn Exalted Heroes straight into Mark of Khorne ones, so you're not spending souls, because that's another thing you can spend souls on when you're playing Warriors of Chaos, is you can upgrade your heroes and lords with marks to dedicate them to God. So, healing and exalted heroes up to Mark of Khorne. Spellcasters are always going to remain undivided because, she doesn't give a... It's Khorne. It
yeah, don't give a fuck.
So overall, she is pretty strong in melee combat when you fight her, and she's a pain to deal with. But as well as being Khorne, she has her own unique bloodletting mechanic, so kind of similar to Scarbrand's, but it's more focused on Words of Chaos, so it gives her more Khorne authority, melee attack, I think casualty replenishment rate, as well as a bit of point corruption. So overall, she is pretty strong.
All right. And so, where would you place her? I mean, I feel like how this tier list is going so far, we got the majority of you guys gonna be placed in A for the most part. But
I'm thinking A plus or F because she's just pretty strong. She's really good to play with. She's a pain to fight against if you're not really well versed in the combat. You can easily deal with her.
So for me, at least, as I played her, she was one of the very first campaigns I actually did for this YouTube channel. By the way, keep that in mind. Y'all want to look at the playthrough? Go ahead and do it if y'all want to. Yeah, selfless plug.
Shameless plug.
Anywho, though, I feel like as much as I love her, though, her campaign was quite boring in a sense that like you're stuck in the corner and you have only a couple of choices to go. That is like, yeah, you either go south or you can go east, but then like eventually, especially because of anti-player bias, they're all going to go to, they're all going to go to war against you no matter what. And so you have to pick and choose on because your choices are very crucial. But then after there's a certain point where it just becomes like a stalemate or a slow push, and it just feels like there's just not enough variety. Like for me personally, as much as I love Valkia, I would have to honestly put her personally within like the A or the B slot. That's just me. And that's just because
yeah, it's just because of her campaign, but easily you can just get the mod where you can just get random starting locations, so you don't always have to start there.
That is
just
true.
The only downside is you won't have access to the monks, so you won't be able to get a vassal.
Here, I think let's drop it an A. At least for her.
Okay.
So the next character we're going to be talking about here, which is who I started to recently play a little bit more, because the changes in the rework from the last update, is Nurgle for basically, but also we're going to be talking about Festus, y'all. Festus, the fat Lord Doctor himself, or he goes by the name of Festus, the Leech Lord. He's a man of potions and a man of everything. Now, Festus's campaign, when he came out, first of all, his starting position is, I forgot what the territory is called, but it's basically smack down in the center of the Empire. I think it's called the Brass Keep, actually. That's where he's at. And he became a menace within Carl Franz's campaign. Because when it comes to Carl and his campaign, to me, it felt like if you didn't get a fire wizard as a free wizard in the first 6 turns, your campaign, honestly, to me, is lost, because there's no way that you can defeat Festus. Like, you have to have a choice in a Carl's campaign. You either have to go take out Festus within the first 30 turns, or go or face Mr. Vampire Lord himself over there, who's eventually going to come at you no matter what.
Glad the Chad.
Yeah, Glad the Chad, yes. And so that is the fun part about Carl's campaign. Is like, you got to hurry up and rush his ass. If you can rush him out of the campaign gets a bit easier. But then you also have a stopgap, which is a stupid freaking Beastman. I forgot his name. See, I don't care about him because I forgot about his name. Kazrak. Yeah, I want to see, but I did say his name though. I did someone say Kazrak. And so now, speaking of Festus, Festus again, he is a wizard-based legendary lord who has a design which is pretty cool. He has constant, I guess you could say, buffing, as in you can either constantly heal your army. I think it's like a 0.1 second per, or you can give them extra damage up to a certain degree as well. So they're both click on. So you have to click on, wait 30 seconds to click it off, then turn on another one or whatnot. And so Festus is really cool. Festus gets access to various, of course, Nurgle units, and of course the Lord Nurgle. So that makes him very strong in that regard. As you guys know, Lord Nurgle, he's all about the poison, but he does get Nurgle's attributes, which is basically, definitely poison, I guess you could say. Because that poison in the slow speed, woo, y'all might think that turns everything around when it comes to a Nurgle faction like Festus. Now he does get all the similar upgrades to various other, of course, worst chaos factions, but Derper is going to be here and to give you guys more of a in-depth on what Festus is all about. So go ahead, Derper.
Okay, so Festus is the Nurgle mono god for this DLC, as well as Words of Chaos. Mark of Nurgle gives units poison attacks, increased hit points, increased melee defense, but lower melee attack, because Nurgle's all about taking hits in battle. Lord Nurgle is strong because there's buff, debuffs, as well as a really strong heal. So his healing is pretty good as well, because he can buff the healing cap and his army as well for his own personal line. He's pretty good because he has the healing effect, healing elixirs, which heals people around him by 0.1%, as well as Harbinger Pestilence. So if you don't want to heal, you can switch to Mortis Engine effect, which you don't have to be in melee, you just have to be next to them. He's really strong in the early game because he starts off with a giant, and giants are pretty fucking strong. As well as recently with the Throne of Decay, he can now get a Nurgle Chaos Knight into Rot Knight, and Rot Knights are a really strong cav unit for Nurgle to have. So he is pretty good, strong. Similar to Valkia, he has his own research tree, which mostly dedicated to Nurgle. So you can get your exalted heroes up to Nurgle, and with Thrones of Decay, you can now get Chaos Sorcerers of Nurgle. So now you have a secondary healer in your fucking Chaos armies, which is going to be annoying to deal with. But hey, you do you, boo.
You do you.
On top of being Nurgle, he also gains. He also has infections, like playing as the Greater Demon of Nurgle, so he can spread plagues of himself. And because of the plague rework, it makes it feel it's a bit more rather than just some bullshit recipe shit. So it's pretty good because you gotta be spreading in plagues. Because also when you spread plagues with him, if I recall, you also gain extra souls, so you can spend that on the good stuff.
That you do.
So he's pretty strong, as well as eventually when you get either your sorcerer on the Chaos Shrine of Nurgle, or you have a Chaos Shrine of Nurgle, because that's a really good unit because it provides an AoE healing. So you're just basically giving more healing to your whole army, so you could really out-sustain the enemy if you're really in for them long fights. Because Nurgle units are not really known for their speed, so they are very, very slow.
All right. So now, before I ask Dipper, about his tier list here. So keep this in mind when it comes to Festus. I feel like that, for me at least, and this is coming straight because of the way how his campaign is. I have to give his campaign at least an A plus, considering the fact that the way his campaign, the way how I'm looking at it is, I go by how fun it can be and the variety, right? So when it comes to his campaign, at least, he's pretty fun in terms of the way he's surrounded by a lot of enemies. You can go either route or either way. If you're playing as Festus, you have the choice of going or taking out the Empire. You have the choice of going straight towards Kitsley, or the Kitsley territory, or you have a choice of going straight up north to Dorska. Or last but not least, you have a choice of going to fight the vampires, and those are really cool in terms of variety. So I would have to go ahead and either give him an A or an A plus because of variety and how fun his campaign could be, because he is a Nurgle-like faction. Now, what about you, Dipper?
I think A plus or S, because Nurgle's pretty strong, Festus is really strong. He has easy fucking people to deal with in the Empire, because to be honest, the Empire is just piss easy to deal with.
That is true. That is very true.
Especially in the early game, it's like really not hard to deal with him.
So yeah, I could definitely go ahead and throw him up in the S tier. I actually did enjoy his campaign. All right, and up next, guys, finally, we're going to talk about the man himself, the one who controls his little baby brother, or I'm sorry, his big brother, however you want to call it. It's so sad. It's such a sad story. It's like Twilight. I don't know. We're going to be talking about here Village, the Courseling. Now, Village here is a man who's under, of course, Tzeentch. He gets access to Tzeentchian units. He starts off basically in Cathay, in a sense. He's there to terrorize Cathay, the Western province and the Northern province together. Now, I'm a little bit biased with him because he gets access to the Tzeentch spells. He is honestly freaking amazing. He's very strong. I mean, you're a wizard, and you're an armored wizard at that, who can also hold their own in melee combat, especially since you get that barrier for free. Now, in the campaign, like I said, he gets access to a lot of the Tzeentchian stuff, especially the Blue Scribes, Acoid, I forgot his last name, but we're gonna Cold, which is a legendary hero if you can get that quest line going, and he's there to just fool around and fuck around with the Tzeentch, with people around him. But Dipper, go ahead and go more in depth with our boy here, Village the Courseling.
Okay, village the Curseling.
Courseling,
Not Courseling.
because he's
Curse.
gonna course these fuckers.
Okay, so he's the mono god of Tzeentch, and Mark of Tzeentch units have barrier as well as magical attack, so that will help out very much against if you're fighting people with high physical resist. So goodbye physical resist. That won't matter anymore. He's really strong as spellcaster as well as melee because he has a unique passive ability called the Twisted Twin. So the more he's in melee combat and casting spells, the more spell mastery he gets, the more melee attack and melee defense he gets, which is pretty strong. So that's why in the skill tree he has a spell line as well as a melee line, because you have Village, the little worm thing, is the spellcaster, and his brother Tommen, which is the big beef muscle. He has Lore of Tzeentch. I've not really used a lot of Lore of Tzeentch because, in my opinion, I like the other Lores of Magic, and Lore of Tzeentch feel like needs a bit of tweaks. But that's just me. He gains access to obviously the Mark of Tzeentch unit, so he'll get Doom Knight, which are Tzeentch Knight on top of Flying Disc, which is pretty strong. And then later on, you can get Vortex Mutalisk, which are pretty fucking disgusting of a fucking unit that they fucking gave Tzeentch.
Yeah.
As well as own unique item, the Vessel of Chaos, which keeps on replenishing barrier, so you can just have unlimited fucking barrier with him as well as people around him, which is disgusting. He also has access to the unique stance called Teleport Stance, which is bullshit if you're fighting against Tzeentch with Teleport Stance, because it's so fucking annoying. Because if they teleport on top of you, it's a guaranteed ambush, and you're just like sitting there like, well, I'm fucked.
That is very true.
That's why you have to be careful when you're fighting any Tzeentch faction, as well as the Demon Prince, because he gets it too, but who gives a fuck about Daniel? In the early stages when it first came out, you could teleport Sans over the fucking Great Wall. When they eventually the Bastion Wall and Grand Cafe, so you can make it easier to invade. But recently, they patched that so you couldn't do that, which is like, okay, cool. I'll just do it the old-fashioned way: take over a gate and just fucking stomp it. Like, yo, what's up? I'm here to take your ass. But yeah, he's just pretty strong unit. Melee, he's a good spellcaster, as well as his own research tree, which focuses more on Tzeentch, so you can easily get access to Lords of Tzeentch, Exalted Heroes of Tzeentch, and Sorcerers of Tzeentch, which is pretty good. Since he is also Tzeentch, he gains access to like a Changing of Ways, which you spend souls. It's not as comprehensive as normal Tzeentch. There's some main ones. You can just deal instant magic. You can debuff an enemy army, so it makes them like have less campaign movement range, lower stats and stuff. As well as you can just give an army just 4 units of chaos spawn, because he's just all about that. Because he does give a buff to spawn, Forsaken, as well as Mutilate Vortexes. But
Now,
yeah, that's really about it.
Now with me here, once again, because these are words chaos, I'm going by how fun the campaign is. Now with me here, because of where he is, unit battle variety is still kind of boring, because if you play this campaign, you do have a couple of choices where you want to go. You can either go west and fight Tzeentch, or you can go south to fight Cathay. Now, the thing is, though, is that there is a certain point where you could take so long to fight Cathay that eventually the western provinces are probably going to destroy your other opponent, which is, Deathmaster Snitch. Or they can destroy your other guy. What's his name? Was it Crockgar that's down there? Not Crockgar, no. It's
Lokir there, as well as
Nakai. So
Nakai
it could take you forever to get down to like those two factions. Now you just teleport yourself away, then you can get there pretty quickly. But then at the same time, you're probably not going to have an army or anyone's magic charge in order to do that. Now, if you want to go fight this Han, you could do that, which could be a challenge, could not be. And then if you can defeat that, then you might have to fight Turbocan or Archeon. But to me, though, I would have to throw him with Valkia in the A list, just because like his playthrough can be, I guess, iffy at best. That's just me though. But he is a good character overall in terms of like character wise and stuff. He's really good. But campaign starting position, that just to me, that's being, I have to judge based upon that. But what do you think, Derper?
I'm thinking A or A plus. I would put him at S because of that bullshit. He just keep replenishing barrier because with his quest item, you cast a spell, you can trigger barrier replenishment, and he always replenishes barrier when you put a point in his skill tree, which gives him the Paragon of Change, which is a regen of barriers within an area, which is like 0.2%. And because of recent updates, you can hover over, you can see barrier hit point replenishment, healing replenishment, and all that, as well as modifiers over the health, which is pretty nice.
Okay,
So I'm thinking A or A plus.
let's go ahead and dump him. Valkyrie needs a little bit of friends here. We're gonna dump him with A. So, like I said, A guys, it means their campaign is not bad at all. They're still good campaign, overall campaign. It's just their starting position is what makes them kind of boring in that sense. So the last of the Warriors Chaos here that we're going to be moving on to, guys, is we're going to move on to the man himself, Azazel. Now, me personally, I don't have a lot of experience with Azazel. It's like, for me at least, it's like every time I try to start him up, I don't know. I guess that it really has something to do with Slaanesh. I just don't feel Slaanesh. I guess I like their spells. I like what they're there for. Yeah, I guess I don't know. But Slaanesh, every time it's like I start up a Slaaneshi campaign, and it's like, I don't really care for it. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and let this off the dirt because he knows more about Azazel. Now, before I do that, actually, the one thing I do know about Azazel, now starting from campaign-wise, or certain position, he's pretty fun in that sense because he does get access to a variety of different enemies to face. He can fight the Norskins, he can fight the Kislevites, he can also fight the Empire if he wants to, or he can fight the Dwarves, which is where Malachi McIson starts near you, or he can go back to battle with the Hell Pit as well, or Clan. Was it Pestilence, right? If I'm correct on that?
No, it's Mulder.
Smolder. Okay, Smolder. Okay. So thank you for correct.
Big fat boy himself.
Yeah. And so that's one thing to me that automatically puts him in A plus considering because of all that variety. But Derper, go ahead and explain on your thoughts on Azazel.
Okay, so since he starts off near Kislev and all that, he's part of if you play as Crystalton, he's part of the Trinity of Terror with Azazel, Frog, and the gaming person who I can blanking on the fucking name, Mulder guy.
Yeah.
So I played Azazel. He's a good lord, but he's definitely not sent him in one on a time to fucking fight people. On top of the other Wars of Chaos, he starts off as demonic, so he's already like a demon prince in a sense. So he gains that extra bit of physical resist on top of with the Mark of Slaanesh, which gives him more physical resist. As well as with Slaanesh, you can seduce units, so you can spend your Chaos favor to take a unit from the enemy to add to your army to tip the scales in your favor. He's a spellcaster as well, so he has Lore of Slaanesh, which I really like, because a lot of buffs and debuffs on top of with the buffs and debuffs, you cause people to rampage, so you gotta be very careful especially if you're buffing your own units and you're making sure that they're not getting in there getting fucked. So he mostly want to focus with Slaanesh in his army because he gains more Slaanesh authority and stuff. Because Slaanesh is the best. Don't fucking at me. So eventually down the line, when you upgrade him, you can give him some regen whenever you cast a spell, as well as he has a Mortis Engine effect with his Serpentine Tail, which is pretty nice. And he's pretty good. He's very graceful when he fights, like as all Slaanesh people are. His own research tree, you can easily get Sorcerers of Slaanesh down the line, so if you want more Slaaneshi power with the Lord, then go ahead, do that, Queen.
Wild. Sounds like wild.
But yeah, he's just pretty decent lord. He doesn't have as much armor, so he's definitely very squishy. On top of that, especially when you're gonna be fighting Kislev to start off with all their fucking hybrid units of being missile and melee. So you just gotta keep an eye on him when you're fighting, especially because he's quicker than all his other units, because he flies. But I think overall he's pretty decent, pretty good lord. If you really know how to play him very well, you could easily fucking dominate the battlefield and gain so many vassals to fan you.
Now, where would you place him?
I'd say A or A plus. He's probably gonna be even stronger when Slaanesh get their own rework, when they get their DLC sometime in the future, as well as some access to a bit more units. But overall, I think he's just A or A plus.
I'll go ahead and throw him into A plus. Like I said, for me, it's all about map starting position variety, and he adds to that, and that's what makes him pretty great in that sense. Lots of enemies to fight, not just like two factions like the first 30 turns. It's like with old Warhammer 2 where you had Krokgar sitting in the corner of the Southlands, and he was fighting like one faction for like the first like 40 turns, and that's to me that was insane. Now, we're almost done, guys. Almost done here. So I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I could be done with this tier list within like the next 2 minutes. And the reason why I say this is because we're going to be talking about the Ogre Kingdoms. Now these guys, keep this in mind, they were a pre-order faction for Warhammer 3, or if you bought it from the launch week, you got them basically for free with the pre-order, and then afterwards they're like $12.
Yep.
To me, these two factions, in terms of, I think they're going to get a rework pretty soon. Actually, matter of fact, they are within the next update, which is going to be Brink skins, Ogre Kingdoms, and also Khorne.
Yep.
But as of right now, like, I personally don't want to feel like talking about them, but I got to for this video here. Is that the Ogre Kingdoms are probably the worst two factions within Total War Warhammer 3. Like, on paper, they seem cool and amazing. They seem like a fun thematic faction. Because of the whole mercenaries and their camps and stuff like that. But overall, though, even with the way they are, there's just nothing special about them that makes them cool. Like, Greasus is pretty cool. I mean, I played Greasus. Greasus is pretty cool. I enjoyed what he is, and what he's about. But like, it's just campaign wise, they're just kind of boring. At least to me. Now I know that you said you play Scrag. Now put it like this in campaign. Here, I put it like this. Campaign wise, they're boring as fuck. Multiplayer though, they're fun in multiplayer, especially in 1v1 PvP. I got that experience with them in that, and I won a couple matches as the Ogre Kingdoms. But overall though, I will let Derber talk about a Scrag the Slaughterer or whatnot, and then I'll talk a little bit about Greases. But yeah, just as of right now, they're just two of the most boring factions in the game, and no one really talks about them. But go ahead, Derper.
Okay, so Greasus, being a big jolly fat ogre that he is, he starts off in the Ogre Mountains as normal, because that's where he's chilling. His unique thing is, if you play his faction, he gives everyone bigger size, so that means you can take use of it, because ogres have a unique thing with ogre charge, which their charge does even more damage with mass and stuff, which is pretty nice. Ogres are only really effective with their camps, because when they get settlements, they can only go up to tier 3, whereas camps, they can go up to tier 5, so you get some of their better units as well as bonuses. Like Skaven, they have their own food mechanic, which is meat, so you also got to make sure you're generating meat as well to help out. You can also spend meat before you start the battle to increase charge bonus as well as unit mass size for your ogre units, so you can make them even more deadlier when you're charging them in. And on top of being ogres, he also has big names, so whenever you reach certain requirements, you can give your lord a big name, which gives them benefits and such to make them a bit stronger in combat, or maybe on the world map sort of deal. I've not really played much about him, but I know he's decent against lots of armored units, because he's considered a great axe unit, so he's definitely want to be in there with lots of armor piercing and stuff. As well as a nice little debuff area, which lowers leadership and melee attack and people around him, which is nice. But ogre units are pretty good, especially the later game ones when you get our lead belchers and stone horns, which is pretty nice, because lead belchers are just fucking disgusting range units. They just fucking easily fucking just wreck people.
Yeah.
Because why the fuck not? But yeah, when the ogre's obviously not strong, because in Realms of Chaos they're probably strong because it's more spaced out, but in World Empires more places are a bit close together. So it's really hard to put down a camp, especially because it's hard to level it up, especially if you're closer to enemies, because they can easily just walk up, flick it with a flick of their finger if you don't have units in it. But yeah, that's just really what happens. So until this rework happens, I can't wait to see what the ogres are going to fully come in. But right now, they're not really strong in campaign. But like my friend DisBearity said, they're really good in multiplayer, so that's pretty nice.
So, honestly, like I said though, in terms of where to place them, me personally, I would have to place them in between F and D, like one or the other, until this rework and the things that the CA does changes them, fixes them up. Now, what are your thoughts, Dipper?
Well, I don't really play much Greases. I was more of a scraggy boy, so I'm picking C because at least he's pretty good for Legendary Lord because it does provide decent faction-wide buffs for his own little tree as well as through other stuff as well. He can be he's pretty decent as well as if you can deal with Grimgor, who's really close to him, and Grimgor, he's just a fucking AI. What? I don't know what they did to that fucking Grimgor.
And here's what I could do. I'll level with you. Again, when it comes to certain positions, I would definitely agree with putting Scrag in C, because of Scrag here, he does have a variety of people face.
He's in the southern realm.
I mean, I guess I'll level with both. I think I can put them both in C. Now, like you said, with Greases here, he does have a couple choices that he can fight. What do you call it? Grimgor. He can fight the Western provinces, as I recall, or he can fight Nurgle. So he does have a variety as well. So, but if I were to choose campaign mechanic wise and stuff like that, they get an F. But in terms of starting positions and stuff, that gives them a bit of a bump in order to do a little bit better. And like I said, I don't know what the hell they did to Grimgor, but I'm gonna talk about that later because my guys, Grimgor is like crack. I don't know shit. Even in my Termicon campaign or my other campaigns with Malachi, the man just gets armies at the army somehow. I'm like, how are y'all able to afford these armies? AI, I get it. Y'all get extra resources, but shit, oh my god. But anywho though, so far this tier list is not too bad, at least in my opinion. We have 3 in S's, 3 in A plus, 2 in A, and 2 in C. So it's really not that bad, y'all. And these are both the Ogre Kingdoms and the Warriors of Chaos put together in one video. So keep that in mind. So first and foremost, if you guys agree with this video or disagree, let us know in the comment section below. I mean, like the video if you want to like it, dislike it if you don't want to dislike it. Just let us know what you guys think as well. That would be really cool, really amazing if y'all can do that. If you guys want to, definitely consider checking out the other video to kind of get an idea on how future videos are going to go. Now, I have no idea when the next kind of tier list video that we're going to do is going to come out, but it's going to be a bit, of course, shorter because it's going to be shorter, but it's going to be considerably a lot easier to work around because it's going to be like, 3 legendary lords, and that will be the Chaos Lords we'll be talking about next. So that's going to be a little bit easier, a little bit more simple. But again, Derper, thank you for joining me on this episode. I do appreciate that. You help out a lot, in terms of information for Total Warhammer 3. So for anybody who's new to this video, if you enjoyed it, definitely consider liking and subscribing. Also, as always, hit the notification bell to be notified any other future part or video of the series. And last but not least, if you guys want to support my channel, consider becoming a patron or a channel member to help support for future projects. But thank you guys for watching. Thank y'all for your support, and we'll see y'all for the next one. Peace out. Much love. Y'all have a good one. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like and also hit the bell notification down below. Thanks for watching.